Amaka, how dare you talk to me like that? Do you know who I am in this company? Oh my God, she pushed her.
Every head turned. Typing stopped. Phones fell silent. The entire office seemed to hold its breath. No one had expected what had just happened. But what none of them knew was that this quiet, unassuming woman would become the reason Ngozi lost everything she had worked so hard to build. And by the time it was all over, the entire company would learn a lesson they would never forget. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Tales by Dima and turn on your notifications so you don't miss what happens next in this story. Ngozi had worked at Golden Crest Limited for almost 8 years, climbing steadily until she became one of the most senior officers on the floor. She was good at her job, nobody could deny that. But somewhere along the way, Ngozi decided that being good at her job also meant she had the right to treat people however she pleased. She insulted junior staff in front of visitors, mocked people's accents, their clothes, their mistakes, always loud enough for the whole office to hear. "Is it that your village school didn't teach you how to add numbers?" she once said to a young man named Tund, and the floor laughed nervously while he stared at his desk, humiliated. Nobody reported her. 2 years earlier, a woman named Blessing complained to HR about Ngozi. Within a month, her workload doubled and every small mistake was reported to management. She resigned before her probation year ended. After that, everyone learned the same lesson. It was easier to endure Ngozi than fight her. "Just don't give her a reason," people whispered to newcomers. The office manager, Mr. Bassi, knew about her behavior, but Ngozi was one of his best performers, so he looked the other way. Ngozi noticed, and it made her bolder, walking through the office like a queen surveying her kingdom, while everyone bowed just to survive another day. Then Amaka arrived, a fresh graduate intern placed under Ngozi's supervision. From her first day, people quietly warned her. "Be careful with Ngozi," a cleaner told her. "She can make your life very difficult here." Amaka only smiled politely. "Thank you for the advice, Ma." What nobody knew was that Amaka was not an ordinary intern. She was the niece of Mrs. Adiz, the regional director. Complaint after complaint about Ngozi had reached her desk for years, but each time, the branch claimed the matter had been handled. Suspicious, she asked Amaka, who had just finished school, to go in quietly and observe. "Don't tell anyone who you are," she said. "Just work, watch, and tell me the truth." Amaka agreed, working quietly, avoiding office politics, paying close attention to everything around her. Ngozi could not stand people who didn't seem afraid of her. Within the first week, she began testing Amaka. "Amaka, is this how they taught you to arrange files in your useless school?" she snapped one morning, throwing a folder onto her desk. Amaka looked at her calmly. "I'll correct it, Ma," she said, without flinching, without the fear Ngozi was used to seeing. It unsettled Ngozi more than she wanted to admit. Over the following weeks, Ngozi gave Amaka impossible deadlines, criticized her in meetings, and once accidentally spilled coffee on documents she had spent hours preparing. Still, Amaka remained calm, redid the work without complaint, never raised her voice. Slowly, junior staff noticed she wasn't crumbling the way everyone else had. "How are you not afraid of her?" Tund asked one afternoon. Amaka thought for a moment. "I am not saying I'm not affected, but I refuse to let her behavior control how I see myself. She can shout. She cannot shrink me." Word of that quiet confidence spread through the office, and for the first time in years, people whispered not about their fear of Ngozi, but their admiration for someone unbothered by it. Then came the morning that changed everything. It was a Monday, and the office was tense because a major client presentation was scheduled for later that day. Ngozi, feeling the pressure, had been shouting at another staff member near reception since morning. At her desk, Amaka was on the phone with an important client, trying to resolve a scheduling issue. Ngozi's shouting kept interrupting the call, forcing Amaka to repeat herself twice already. Finally, she covered the receiver and turned to Ngozi. "Ma, please, could you lower your voice small? I'm on a call with a client." The office went still. Ngozi turned slowly, her face twisting in anger. "Amaka, who told you that you can talk to me like that?
Amaka,
Do you know who
how
I
dare you
am in
talk
this
to me like
office?"
that? Do you
she
know who I
shouted,
am in this company?
marching toward Amaka's desk before the call had even ended. Amaka calmly ended her call and looked up. I only asked if you could please lower your voice, Ma. That's all, she said again, steady and unbothered. That composure was more than Ngozi could take. Her hand shot out and she shoved Amaka hard by the shoulder. Amaka's chair rolled back, and she fell to the floor, papers scattering around her. Gasps filled the office. Tund and another colleague rushed to help her up while others stared in shock. Ngozi's pride quickly buried whatever shame had briefly shown on her face. Let this be a lesson to you, she said loudly. A small girl like you, disrespecting a senior staff. Next time it will be worse. Amaka rose slowly, said nothing, and walked to the restroom to compose herself. If this story is stirring something in you already, don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it. It truly helps this channel grow. Word of the incident reached Mr. Bassi within minutes. He found Ngozi seated calmly at her desk. Ngozi, did you push that girl? He asked. She disrespected me, Ngozi replied simply. Torn between discipline and convenience, Mr. Bassi gave her a verbal warning and asked for an apology, which she gave half-heartedly. The matter was quietly filed away, the same way every other complaint about her had been. What nobody knew was that Amaka had called her aunt that same evening and told her everything. 2 days later, Mrs. Adiz arrived unannounced and called Ngozi into Mr. Bassi's office. Complaints have been coming to my desk for 2 years, she began calmly. And now I hear you pushed a young intern to the ground in front of the whole office. Ngozi straightened herself. Ma, I have worked hard for this company for 8 years. Sometimes the younger ones can be stubborn, and one has to be firm. Firm is one thing, Mrs. Adiz said. Pushing a colleague to the ground is another. She paused. I am not going to dismiss you today. I believe people can change if given a real chance. This is your final warning. Any further complaint of any kind, and you will leave this company immediately. Shaken but relieved, Ngozi nodded quickly. Thank you, Ma. It will not happen again. For a few weeks, the warning seemed to work. Ngozi softened her tone, stopped shouting as loudly. Employees cautiously hoped real change was possible. But old habits built over years of unchecked pride do not disappear so easily. The warning had frightened her, not humbled her, and frightened pride only waits quietly for its next excuse. That excuse came about a month later. Mrs. Chidinma, one of the office cleaners, was mopping the corridor outside the accounts department early one morning. Ngozi came round the corner in a hurry, eyes fixed on her phone. Their feet collided, and Ngozi's foot landed briefly on Mrs. Chidinma's foot as the older woman tried to step aside. Sorry, Ma, Mrs. Chidinma said quickly, steadying herself, but Ngozi didn't hear an apology. She saw disrespect. Are you mad? She snapped, grabbed the mopping bucket beside them, and emptied the dirty water straight onto Mrs. Chidinma's head. The corridor froze. Water dripped from the older woman's hair down her uniform. She stood there, stunned into silence, humiliation written across her face. The quiet hurt of a woman who had worked faithfully for years, treated in a way she never deserved. Staff rushed over. Amaka was among the first to arrive, helping Mrs. Chidinma to a chair and fetching a towel. Ngozi stared at the empty bucket, before pride swallowed whatever shame had tried to rise. She should watch where she's mopping, she muttered, and walked off as though nothing had happened. But this time, the silence that followed her was different. Nobody laughed along with her. They simply watched her go, something colder than fear in their eyes. Mrs. Adiz arrived at the branch the very next morning, having heard everything within hours. This time, she addressed the matter in front of the entire department. A month ago, I gave this woman a final warning, she said, her voice heavy with disappointment. Yesterday, a woman who has cleaned this office faithfully for years had dirty water poured over her head like she was nothing. The room was silent. There will be no more warnings, Mrs. Adiz continued. No more chances. Effective immediately, Ngozi is dismissed from this company. Ngozi opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. She had been given a second chance and spent it recklessly. Security quietly escorted her out while the office watched in heavy silence, only the sober weight of how far things had gone. Days later, the full truth about Amaka came out. In a meeting to reassure shaken staff, Mrs. Adiz introduced her properly. "Many of you knew her as Amaka, the new intern," she said. "She is my niece. I sent her here quietly to find out the truth about complaints I had been receiving for years. What she witnessed confirmed everything, long before yesterday happened." The office absorbed this in stunned silence, followed by quiet understanding. Someone had been listening after all. Amaka completed her internship with distinction and was offered a full-time position shortly after. Mrs. Chidinma returned to work the following week, greeted with a warmth she had never quite received before. And that, "My people," is the karma that catches up with those who mistake unkindness for power. Ngozi was given a rare second chance and still chose pride over change. Life does not always give warnings twice, but when it does, wise people listen. However long the bully rules, the truth always finds its way to the surface. And when it does, it settles every account.